Okay, so we're gonna finish up Monday's lecture and also do a little discussion. Yeah, this one. We'll do a little discussion and then we'll give you guys time, like 15, 20 minutes to work on the homework. And also if you're on Zoom, you have a question, just put in the chat. There are some instructors right now, so they can answer questions, or if I see it, I can answer as well. Okay, so we'll start talking about functions. And functions are really important in Python. They're like the backbone of Python, basically. And it's really essential skill to know. So a function is basically the same as a math function. It has an input or multiple inputs, and then it produces an output or multiple outputs. So for example, if you do like f of x is equal to x, like f of x takes in an input x and then outputs like that input, like as an example. So there are three main properties of a function. So the first one is this define statement, which is this. So you write def and then your function name. It just basically names the function so it's easier for you to tell what's going on. So I don't know, if you had a function that outputted the area of a circle, you would name it like area circle or circle area or something like that. Make sure it's descriptive so you and other people know what's going on in that function. And then the next part is the inputs, which you put in parentheses. And it's basically whatever you want to input into the function. So again, with the circle area, you would input the radius. These are stuff that you typically know, or you should know, otherwise you can't really use the function. And then inside the function, you'll do stuff that you want to do in the function. So in the previous example with the area of the circle, you would compute the area. So you do like pi r squared, for example, and then you would return that as an output. So you could do this in one line, or like define a variable to hold the area and then you would return that. But basically that's what you do. Some notes, you can have no inputs as well. Somewhere we put a function with no inputs, and that is possible. And then there's also, I think every function has to have an output. In certain languages, there are functions that don't have an output, but I think in Python, they have to have an output. Is that correct? Oh, it doesn't need to return anything. Never mind. Okay, so actually I was wrong. A function does not need a return value, but it should do something. Maybe. Okay, so this is another example. So this one calculates the distance between two points. So we have our define statement, so def, and then our function name, and we have our two parameters, dx and dy. Oh, and also important, there's a colon right here. Don't forget this colon. You might run into errors otherwise. And then here, it's the body of the function. So they create this variable called dist that calculates the distance between dx and dy. And then it returns dist. So it returns this. Okay, yes?
Is dist a local variable because it's not called somewhere else? Or, like, because this is creating the variable dist,
yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes, it is local.
Afterwards, if you tried to call dist, it wouldn't show up if it was outside of the function? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I write like print dist and
if you do that outside of the function, yes, it won't output anything. It will be like, oh, dist is not defined. Yeah, it would only work if dist was defined outside of this function.
Yeah, and then that would be, instead of creating this, it would be changing what the value of this is equal to that.
Yeah, be very careful about that in your projects because it could produce a lot of unexpected outputs. So so when you call a function, you have to include a input and output. You have to include the inputs. Otherwise, there would be like some possible problems when running the code. It doesn't ask the user for an input unless you specifically write in the code like you're asking for a user input. But usually when you call a function, you yourself are writing the inputs for the function.
It's on errand that the variables aren't defined if you don't input them.
Yeah, so if you don't input it, it'll say this variable is not defined or something. It's very important when we learn about like NumPy in the next couple of weeks. Yes.
When you're inputting variables, do you have to say what type of variable or what type of, like, if it's a string or if it's a integer or whatever?
Yeah.
Before?
No, you don't have to write the variable type. That's what's nice and good and bad about Python, I would say. Because then like if you're looking at a function, you're kind of unsure like what kind of variables they're inputting. But in Python, you don't have to write the variable types or anything, just like the variable. Okay, any other questions before I do a short demo? All right. How do I exit, guys? Okay. Oh no. Yes.
The def is separated by a space, but the other
Yes.
parts are not.
Yes. Okay, so these floating panels. So I'm gonna open VS Code and open a new file, Python file. Okay. So let's make a function. Let's say I want to find, let's say I take in 2 inputs and I want to find the minimum value of those inputs. So I'm going to start with def. So as our defining statement for the function, and then our function name. So maybe like find min. And then our parentheses and colon. So now we have to define our parameters. Can you guys see in the back? Zoom in. Is this better? Okay. So now we need to put in our parameters. So let's just say they're X and Y. Okay. So now does anyone remember the function that outputs the minimum given some values? If not, it's okay. Oh, what was that? We don't have to use indexes because this is not a list or anything. Yes.
You have to set a local minimum, and then you have to check each value that is after it. So then you can see if it is less than the current number. And you set the local minimum equal to the first number in the list, and then you have it go through items in the list, or at least that's how I did it.
Okay, so I think I didn't really specify, but X and Y are integers. They're going to be numbers. So were you saying that we should make a list and then like compare?
Are X and Y items in the list? Or
They're just integers, 2 integers. So for example, like 2 and 3.
oh,
Yeah, that's like one way we could do it. Does anyone want to share a different way that we could have done this besides using the minimum function?
Does it have to be a function?
Doesn't have to be a function.
You do if else statement.
Yeah, we could do an if statement. Like, what would be an example of that?
If X is less than Y, etc. else, it's not a minimum.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
you could do a while loop so that you go through each item that you're trying to find. Like, are you trying to find a minimum for one item? Because that doesn't work. You need to have a list of items, right?
So
if you're thinking between the 2 integers, which is bigger, X or Y, basically you're taking 2 integers, comparing them, And are we returning the?
returning the
minimum?
minimum.
So then you're returning which one is smaller out of the two. So you're not indexing any lists or anything like that, which is.
It's not a list of two.
No.
No. So let's actually use the min function. So let's say my min is equal to min of x and y. Okay, so this is like our body of the function. We found the minimum between x and y, and we stored it in the variable my min, and now we're going to return it. My min. No, you could have done this all in one line and just returned this part, min of x, y, and that would have been fine too. But I think for now, it's easier for you guys if you make a separate variable to contain the value. So that's easier to see. Yes,
How would you write it in one line?
like this. It's because I'm zoomed in. Like this. And then this would.
Okay.
Because if you return this, it's the same thing as returning the variable that contains this value as well. But I highly suggest doing this first while you're learning Python. Yes.
How do we know like what functions are built in to VSCO and what's not built in?
So basically you'll find out as you keep doing Python. If you like run into a question on homework and you're like, I have no idea what to do. Sometimes there's like a function that does it for you. So you could look it up. So like if I did that right now, how to find the minimum between some values in Python. And then right here, it tells you like, oh, the min function does it for you. Yeah. So you guys should yes.
But this would only work if you were putting in two values, though, because you have only x and y each time.
I think min can take in more than two values.
But in your function, you only have x and y.
Yes.
As the input, so it would not be able to output more unless x and y were lists that it was all putting together, but I don't think that's how it works.
This is just a really quick and fairly easy example. As you keep going, you can like generalize your functions. This is just a way to demonstrate the syntax of functions.
This is just for x, this is just for two though, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
And the reason you're naming the variables to use it later in other cases, otherwise if you're choosing it once, you would have to do that.
Yeah. And also in this case, it's easier to tell like visually looking at the code. You're like, oh, okay, this returns like the minimum that I'm looking for, or this holds the minimum, and then it returns it. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
For maximum, what I just put max x, y?
Yeah. Okay. If there are no other questions, I will save this. Yes?
It's min all lowercase and x all lowercase.
Yeah. Be very careful about that. I think everything's case sensitive. So if you run into error, like if you did the capitals min, it'll be like, oh, min is not defined. So be very careful about that. I have to save this. Save it as demo. Yes?
What is the meaning of the function if it's only used for the
Oh, like find min?
yeah, or my min equals it, but can't you just do return min?
Oh, you can do that.
Oh,
Yeah. It's just easier to see when you set it equal to a variable. Yeah.
Yeah, we recommend that as you're learning, you lay things out like this, just so you can go back and see exactly what you were doing.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's see if this works. So we're gonna come up here, we're gonna press terminal. If you are on Windows, you can still do this too, it's at the top. So press terminal, then new terminal, and it should show up right here. Oh, why did it look like that? Anyways, okay, so demo is here. So I'm gonna open the interactive Python. Python 3 minus I, and then the file name. Okay, so we're in Python right now. And since I saved the file and I have this function here, this function I can use. So let's say we wanted to find the minimum, what two numbers do you guys want to find the minimum of? 3 and 4. Okay. Let's see what happens. Output's 3. So we know it works. Does anyone know what would happen if we put two of the same number? Yeah. So if we did 3 and 3. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Is there a way to know which 3 it's giving?
Not in Python, probably in C. Okay.
I
So
don't know if Python keeps track of that, does it?
I don't know. Yes.
We able to like above this have inputs like ask them input X, input Y, and then you transfer it over?
Yeah. I don't know how to do that though. But some people in the our previous class had final projects where like they asked for inputs. Yeah. I don't think it's hard to do, but I just never done it before. For one of their some final project, they'll ask like for user input and they'll use that in their project. But it's not super hard to do. So, but I just never done it before. Yeah.
I think you just say the type of input you're trying to get, and then you have to say the input function that you built it. And then just
Oh, okay.
type something that it inputs, you can mark to say like before to give them a prompt, but just whatever they type it will input.
Oh, okay.
For Python, you need a package for it.
Oh, you do?
Pretty sure.
I was able to do it in the computer notebook.
Oh,
Nice.
Can you go back to the terminal screen?
Ooh, I think did I get rid of it? No, I did not. Yay.
And then here we just type line.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot the name of the function. Okay, so let's make another function. Give me like a math function that you guys like.
Pythagoras theorem.
Okay, even though I did that one in the discussion last week. But we
Well,
can,
we can do another one. We can do a quadratic formula.
okay, that one's more interesting. Okay, so what should we do first?
Define quadratic formula.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay, then what are our parameters?
ABC.
Okay, somebody else. Does anyone remember the formula?
Negative B plus or minus the square root of
Yeah.
2A.
Do you guys remember? You guys notice that there's a plus minus, right? You can't do that in Python. But what can we do instead?
Make it do it twice.
Yeah, we can hold one where we're doing plus and have another variable holding the minus, and we can actually output both of them at the same time. So let's do the plus first. So let's name it plus, and then negative b squared plus the square root of 4ac. No, wait, negative b plus minus plus this negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Also, be very careful that you don't put 4ac. You do 4 times a times c. Otherwise, you will get a error, and you're gonna be so confused. And then you're gonna come to us, and we're gonna be like, "Oh, you forgot to put times," and you're gonna be like, "Great."
Fine.
No, you have to import math. Unfortunately,
You divide it all by 2, right?
yeah. I'm quickly gonna import math. Is it? I think it's just math like this. I think then I have to do math dot square. Yeah. All divided by 2ac. I think. Oh, it's 2a. Clearly, I don't use the Pythagorean theorem. Yes. I'm including for you. Yes.
So. The reason that you have to have the multiple between A and C is because otherwise it would think you're calling AC as its own variable, right? As one variable instead of 2 different variables that you're multiplying.
I think it'll also be like you can't have because the 4 in the front, you can't have a variable that starts with a number. So that might also be a problem too. But yes, I'm pretty sure it'll say something about this not defined.
But if you did like 4 times AC, that would just be looking for AC as its own variable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we'll do the same with the minus, except we'll change it to minus. Do you know if it outputs like I think,
Find out.
yeah, we can try.
Well, you imported that, so it might.
Usually if you import something, that means that you can use the functions from that module.
Oh, you're worried about imaginary.
Yeah.
I
mean, but we can try and see
it'll
what
give you
happens.
it'll give you
Well, it'll at least give you one answer.
not necessarily because you'd be taking the math dot square root. So if you take if b squared minus 4ac is a negative number, it'll return an imaginary number regardless. I think it'll give you an error. You have to be, it's like different.
Okay. Let's just see and find out.
Yeah.
Okay. What do we do now, guys?
Oh, return plus minus?
Return plus, and then just do plus minus?
Yeah, we have to start with plus and then.
Oh, no, because that would, if you return it, it exits the function, right?
Yes. So we can't do another line. Parentheses don't help. If you're not sure, or if anyone else has another idea,
A comma?
yes, comma, plus, comma, minus.
You have to have that in parentheses.
No, just leave it. Oh, if we did or, numbers are like Boolean values too. So it would be like saying like true or true, for example. So it would output true. Yeah. The same thing if you did and as well. Okay. Okay, so make sure to save first before and then exit the terminal before running again. What's the name? Demo. Okay, what numbers should we pick?
7, 9.
Okay. Quadratic formula, make sure to spell it right. This is our x1 and x2, guys. And I'll put it as a tuple, by the way. So if you ever like use a function that has 2 outputs and you want one of them, you have to index into it. So if I wanted the first one, what was it, 791? Yeah. Oh, let me pull this up so everyone can see better. 791. If I wanted the first value, you put the brackets and then the index 0. So this will give us the first one. And you can double check that it is the first. And similarly for the second. Yes.
So because you outputted it with the comma, that makes it into a list, so then you can index it.
It makes it a tuple, which is different from a list. But yes.
But you can still index.
Yes. Yes.
You have to run Python 3 dash type and then the name of the file. And that could be. Are you in the folder with like this files? Oh, what, this is. So you open it in the console. You save it. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, so it has to always be the Python for you to be there. Okay. So if it's a part of it, almost like. Thank you, yeah. How would you open it in your terminal?
The file or the
Your terminal,
like the interactive Python?
yeah.
Okay. So let me exit. You would do Python, you have to navigate to the folder where your file is first. So you can't do this unless you're in the directory, otherwise it's not gonna work. So then once you're there, you do Python 3, then -I, and then your file name. So my file name is demo.
Mine is demo.py,
Yes. I didn't put .py.
and the main demo is not the file.
Did you save the file?
If you guys have any errors in your code, it'll output that. It's everybody wants to be involved in the study. So what is it? You don't have to. You can actually just provide, but
If I change the file name, it's. Yeah.
I think 791. Just so you see national so your Texas is
Oh. And then I can. Do that. I could, okay. Cool, thank you.
Do that also in the topic area, you know, all the time. Does it go smarter?
Yes, it does evaluate the water.
Like you have to do it above. If you want to use it. Yeah, it's the same with like variables and stuff.
Because now, the package graph is essentially. Now rerun.
Like all of that. Like how to figure out what all the different things on that thing.
There's. Now.
Like you spring doing that out of this.
No, it's only like the analogous. It's just.
It's not the actual.
Important slash environment. But there is a way to.
Okay, so let's actually move on with the discussion. So let's open your discussion page. It's on my desktop. It's this one, right? Conditionals, yes, it is. Okay. Okay, so as a reminder, this is the syntax for a for loop. So we start with for, and then we have like the variable to have like, you can either like use it to index or just like keep track of stuff. So you have your variable and then in, and then this can be like anything. But typically we will do range and we'll have our start, stop, and then a step if we need to. And then we do whatever code we want to in our for loop. And then again, our while loop is while and the condition, not necessarily equal true. So while condition. So while I don't know, we have some counter and it's less than, oh, what? I forgot. Okay. So while like some counter, for example, is like greater than 0, you do something. Yes.
Where do you have this discussion?
So it's in the GitHub as usual. It's on, I posted the link to the GitHub on Ed. So if polling isn't working for you, just like download the file and move it or like clone it or whatever way works for you. Okay, so now we'll get into using loops.
Also, if you feel like you don't have any time to like pull it or download it and you just want to follow along, if you just open up a new file, we'll be doing all of the syntax as we go, and then you can go back to looking at the problems to figure it out. Cool? Great. Okay, problem 1. Print I 10 times using both a for loop and a while loop. So let's start with a for loop. How are we going to tackle this? What's the intuition here? What are we thinking? Yeah. In range 0, 11. Why did you do 11? Why did you say 11? So we're not trying to print the numbers in the range, right? we're trying to print I 10 times. So we can see how many times I prints like this if you want. Do you want to see what happens after this? Okay, cool. So then what's inside? What should I put? Print I. Cool. And then, yeah, what's up?
Isn't that have to not, because you have I as the variable for the thing, so it wouldn't print the letter I, right? When you have to have I in quotation marks to print the letter I 10 times.
Exactly, yes. So
And
that's perfect. So, yes, your idea is correct about using the range from 0 to 11, and you're right. If we did 0 to 10, it would only print out up until 10. But if you start at 0, it's going to print out an I at 0, and it'll print up until 9, and so that's 10 times. So it doesn't really need to be 0 to 11, it just needs to be 0 to 10. Does it make sense why that's true? Okay. And then, yes, Liam, you're correct. We do need to print out I 10 times. And then notice we're not really using the variable we defined here. That's fine. You don't really need to. But great job reading the code. And thank you for your first intuition. Yeah, what's up?
if you were trying to print a variable I, would you have to say that the 4 was not I? And that made it move because it would conflict and there would be a local variable and a normal variable?
Repeat the question. So if we defined I outside,
Defined outside of the function.
okay,
or
then yes.
outside of- Yeah, outside of this, and then you have 4I in the range, you have to, like, those I's would conflict. If one
Yes.
would be a variable and one would be a local variable, which one would it try and print, or would it say they're there?
It would print out your local variable because it overwrites the I. And it updates the I.
And so
So if
that's
you wanted to print the I that was in the normal variable, you would have to put something other than I for that. Just
I-
the other variable.
I is just a default that we tend to use. So if you have it defined outside, say you're doing a nested for loop and you've already used I, oh no, we have to use, I don't know, J. I always do I for index and J for Jindex. Because that makes sense. But okay, we're gonna do Python 3. Python? Doesn't matter.
No, because you Python here.
I can type. Conditionals. So you really made it the longest name ever.
No.
Wait, why?
That's conditions.
It's just conditions?
Yeah, not conditions.
Oh, thank you.
Also, Maham made this file name.
Okay, I'll yell at her then. Oh, wow. What?
Very fast.
Why did it? Oh, because I didn't create a function.
Yeah.
That's why. Okay. Okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah, by the way, if you don't put this in a function, it'll just run it. Same thing for anything. If you don't put anything in a function, besides like variable names, but you put like random bits of code, it'll output that before you call it.
Yeah, what's up? Yeah. So if you go from 0 to 10, you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 10 digits.
Yeah.
It just ends at 9. Which is nice because that leads to a lot of really nice intuition later on when you're doing for loops. Okay, let's try. Do you want to move on or should I try it with the while loop?
Another question with the wilds.
It's not the only concept. It doesn't look like it. No.
I think
Okay, yeah, we can do.
we should have started with while.
It's fine. Okay, guys. So I just commented that out because next time we run this, I don't want it to run with the for loop.
You don't want it to do it twice?
I don't because we're gonna do it in a while loop now. So does anyone remember
Are we
this?
actually putting this in a function?
No,
Okay.
no.
And if you want, not necessarily.
Does anyone remember syntax for while loops? Yeah, sure.
While for open parentheses, I is less than 11.
Okay. We haven't defined I, so that's going to be a problem for this. Do you have any idea of how to fix that?
We define it.
Yep.
Make IM variables.
Mm-hmm. So what are we going to initialize it as? I heard 0. Okay. Okay, so while I is less than 11. And then what's going in our body besides vitamins?
I and then I plus one.
Print I and then what?
I plus one.
Great. Let's see what happens.
I plus equals 1 is the same thing as saying I is equal to I plus 1. You can also do that with subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. I don't know.
Yeah, so there are a couple of different ways we can do this. Okay, so let's exit here. I saved my thing. Let's run it again. Let's count that up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh God, I don't want to count that. There should be 11. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And it's doing it up.
Yeah, that is 11. So what do you think would fix that?
You either started at 1 or you go less than 10.
Wonderful, wonderful job. Let's do it like this. Does everyone understand why it printed out 11 and not 10? Okay, great. Let's save this. Damn, what? Okay. Okay, cool. I already know that's 10, so I'm not going to count them. But yeah, so that's the basic syntax of a while loop, basic syntax of a for loop. Great job, guys. We're going to go on to the next one. So not range. Okay, we can go back to range in a little bit. Let's do listness. So we're getting back to our lists. Let's figure out how to loop through the elements in the list. And we're gonna use a for loop for it. So, any ideas? We're going to,
We want to output all the
yeah.
numbers.
So we're gonna, it's not super clear, but we're just going to do something to each element in the list one at a time is basically what loop means. And for this, we'll probably just print them out. Usually we'll tell you what to do inside of a for loop. Yeah, what's up?
So we're just going through each index, but you're not doing anything?
We're gonna print them out. We're gonna
Oh,
print
okay.
out each element. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have an idea? For I in given list.
I add 1 and then the index by I and then I add by 1.
So right now, are you accessing the indices or are you accessing the actual elements? Yeah, so you don't necessarily need to do any plus or minus thingamabobs. That's a word that I just used. Anyway, so if we're going through I in given list, if we want to print out all the elements in the, let's try that. Does everyone understand where we're getting these? I know we kind of had a conversation. Yeah, what's up?
So for the 4i in the given list,
Mm-hmm.
that is this, will this go through each of the items? Because won't it need to add one to the,
Not necessarily, because we're in a for loop, so you don't need to do the plus equals. It already indexes above for you. And what's special about the syntax that we're using is that we're not accessing the elements. We're not saying for I in range of the length of the given list. We are saying for every element in this given list, access it, and now I will be updated to every element, not the index of every element. Does that make sense? So let's see what happens. Great, that worked. Holy shit. Any questions why that worked? I don't know, did we talk about accessing the elements directly or? Oh, yeah. Did we talk about accessing the elements directly or did we just talk about accessing via indices? Indices. Yeah, what's up?
the reason this works is because you're looking at the I that you're calling, right? So the I is just whatever the output of the whatever the output of the index that you're looking at is what it's going to output, because
Yeah, so Python is really smart, or at least relatively so. And it knows that it's given a list, like given list. And you say, okay, for I in this, it knows it doesn't need indices to know where it is. It just kind of knows like, hey, I need to go through all the different elements. It's a little weird to explain. Does that make sense though? We can do it the way you guys learned, so you can see. Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so wow, I love stumbling upon a new thing. Okay, so we're still gonna do for I, but what is it gonna be in? If we're looking at the indices now, we're not looking at what's inside of the list. We're looking at indices of the list.
I was pulling this up. What was the question again?
No worries. We're gonna do it the way you guys learned it on Monday. Just because we're out of time, I'm gonna just remind you guys how to do it. So range is a beautiful function because it gives you a list of numbers. For I in range, and then we want the length of our given list. And the reason that this works, you don't have to do +1, is because the length of the list will be 5. And so the length is 5. So if you do range of 5, you'll get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is already 5 digits. So it'll still output, or those are the indices of your list because we are 0 indexed. And that is on purpose. So we'll say print given sub list, and then what is the syntax for indexing? Did I? Damn. I'm just really bad at typing today. One more time. Great. Okay, Command S.
You did 2 brackets.
Wow, I really am having a great day, guys. Okay, let's.
that works. If you had the 2 sets of brackets, would it just do one and then look at the other? You would have to have parentheses.
No, because that bracket denotes a list. So it would be a list inside it. So you'd be trying to call a list as an index, which is not,
But you have parentheses inside.
if you had parentheses in the side of the brackets, that wouldn't do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it would still print the I, that they would.
Yeah.
It would just not there.
I mean, yeah, I think. But yeah, so it works both ways. Let us know if you have any questions and, well, now, yeah, and then go home.
What do you want to put like every other, index?
Every other index,
And 36 instead of.
Look at problem 2.
uh,
2.
is that what the
with this guy.
range one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of explain that,
No, you-
Yeah, thanks.
like, specifically this last
Thanks.
question, what does the last argument do?
Yeah, what's up?
So I'm not entirely sure what the. Or every